Alexander Albon, the man who replaced Pierre Gasly at the Belgian Grand Prix, the second part of the season, has been re-signed for Red Bull Racing for 2020. 1.5 seasons in, it kind of feels like the trading places has gone. You know, originally there was a three-way fight between himself, Pierre Gasly, the man who was in that seat but demoted back to Toro Rosso, and of course the man who was demoted, you know, all those years back, Danny Kvyat. It feels like this fight is now over, and we're all in the fight now for 2021, but the 2020 fight is over. Albon and Verstappen at Red Bull. Also confirmed is Gasly and Kvyat at Toro Rosso. Now, we also made a video about that, you know, a few days earlier. Go and check that out if you haven't already. Now, Alex, I mean, since he came into Formula 1, which, by the way, 12 months ago he wasn't even in Formula 1 or driving a car, has really taken us all by storm. Max Verstappen retired at the Belgian Grand Prix. Alexander Albon had an amazing finish there. In his first 7 races, Alex has actually scored 68 points. Overall, Pierre Gasly has scored 63 points, and I don't mean in his first 7 races with Red Bull. I mean forever. So Alex is an amazing force, much better than Pierre Gasly. Sorry, Pierre, you know, I did like you when you were there. I still do. I still have a lot of faith that he can come back to Red Bull. But for 2020, it's not going to happen. The young Dutchman is going to be alongside Alex Albon. We are excited, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about, does he deserve to be there? Yes, he does. And are we excited for the team? And what can Red Bull do with those two as a pair? And mainly, what can Alex bring to the table? The happy-go-lucky Thai British driver who, you know, had a great Formula 2 season. As I say, started in Australia 2019, drove for Toro Rosso. I mean, some amazing performances with that team. I think he was the highest score. He beat Danny Kvyat in almost every single race he did there in the first part of the season. Then obviously promoted. Train Players 2.0 came in and, yeah, amazing. He outscored Verstappen in most of the races in such a high 60-odd points, just behind Sebastian Vettel as it 6th place thing in the World Championship. We couldn't be happier. So, Jordan Alexander Albon, I mean, when he came in, I mean, he is Thai, but I kind of think he's a British driver at heart. You know, had a lot of very little experience driving for the Toro Rosso. Promoted, you know, at the start of the season after the Hungarian Grand Prix before Belgium. Game might have been kind of going back to, you know, trading places, a bit like what we had with Kvyat and Verstappen, or Train Players 2.0. It felt a bit of a harsh move, but I mean, you know, if we knew now what we did then, I mean, you know, it was a great move, wasn't it? To have him in that car has just clicked like amazing, hasn't it?
It has worked really well since Alex Albon did come into that Red Bull. Now, I did have my doubts at the start of the season. I really did. If you did watch our prediction video, you'll kind of know where we actually predicted Albon to finish at the end of the season. But I don't want to give anything away. If you haven't already, you can obviously go and check it out. But wait until we react to our predictions to find out where we actually put Albon. But at the start, about a year ago, he'd never driven a Formula 1 car before. He was dropped from the Red Bull program many years before that, and he was going to go to Formula E for I think it was season 5, the season before, before the one that's currently going to start. And I was just like, ugh, like, I've seen it before with Red Bull. They bring a guy in, he does a couple of years, and he's out the door more or less straight away. And Albon, I thought he was another one of these drivers. But in Toro Rosso, he definitely performed very well, and I was impressed. But again, I was like, yeah, he's doing okay, but he's no one special. And then when he was announced he was going to Red Bull halfway through the year, I was just like, really? Like, I wasn't a Gasly fan as such, but I was just like, please give him a chance, just give him a season to improve. But I was just like, well, that's Red Bull being Red Bull. And I even had even more doubts. I thought, it's his first season of Formula 1, like, there's going to be so much pressure on this kid's shoulders already. But he has impressed. Don't get me wrong, I am very impressed. I think the highest finish, his highest place so far has been 4th, and his lowest been 6th since he's joined Red Bull, and he's on a brilliant point scoring streak since Germany. I think the last time Germany, when this point scoring run began. The last race he didn't score points was the British Grand Prix, and that's where Gasly did pretty well. So Lyle, I think you're down. I think you're a big influence. It's why Gasly did well and Albon did pretty bad, because obviously you were wearing his t-shirt.
Well, yeah.
But no, like, and he 100% deserves that Red Bull seat for next season. He's performed so well this season, and well, his duration since he's coming to Red Bull, and he's got a lot of a lot of talent there. Certainly, he's very, very quick. And like Lyle said before, he's like a Thai British driver. So like he's like half of ours. He's like our half brother. If that makes any sense. He's not fully related, but he is somewhere along them lines, of course, in being British. So, and he's a very likable guy. And on a side note, he's very, very likable. He's very happy, smiley, honest. He's just so kind. I couldn't imagine him getting angry over the team radio, which I could imagine like the likes of Russell, Verstappen, and Leclerc not getting angry over the radio when I first seen them, but now I look at them in a different light. But Albon, I couldn't imagine him. I could imagine him just being so happy and nice and go, okay, guys, you got the strategy wrong, but it's okay. Well, it's fine. But I can imagine like a massive like beast being unleashed from Albon randomly.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it might be like a Ricardo, because obviously when Ricardo came to the team again, remember he was the happy-go-lucky, smiley guy. I mean, in 2014, Ricardo, actually, sometimes I can't even believe that it was him. The smile was massive, and it was like he's going up against Seb. It's crazy. But then it slowly developed into a, Ricardo, the smile. The smile slowly came down, but obviously he's still, happy-go-lucky smile even at the end of Red Bull. But then it did come down to the swearing and things like that. Started off by Monaco 2016, John. Just quickly, obviously, I know we're not talking about Ricardo, but that being said about Albon, I do feel like that will happen eventually, especially going up against Verstappen. So
Absolutely.
It might be happy, smiley now, which is what we want, but I think eventually, it will go down to, a little bit,
absolutely.
on the radio and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, because like there's going to be more intense situations where like Albon's going to be going for a podium, he's going to be going for a race win, he's going to be on the team radio, guys, help me out here, or there's a guy chasing him down for to stop him from being on the podium or whatever. So, or even in a world championship position. So definitely there will be times where Albon will get on our nerves. And like I said to Leclerc this season, I think it was Singapore, I believe, or Russia. Oh, sorry, it was Russia. Where I said it was the first time I was really annoyed with Charles. And at the moment, I haven't felt like that with Albon, and I eventually will. But that being said, earlier, but the thing that I'm really interested in is that all right, Albon's done good this season, and I can see him getting off to ending the season on a high, maybe a podium. Let's see how it goes in Brazil. But next season is very, very critical, right? Now, with Gasly, I begged Red Bull. I not literally begged, obviously on videos. I wasn't like at the door like, please keep Gasly, but I was just like, please give him a chance, give him a season at least, like not a half a season, because like I don't understand why. Like you're in a fortunate position of like you're not going to lose any places or anything like that. But then again, I suppose that influenced the change in the first place. But next season though, like I just hope that if Albon does start falling off the pace a little bit, I hope that they don't just get up and change the driver again like they have done with likes of Kvyat and Gasly in core. And I hope that he is there for the duration of 2020, because I could just see Albon just all of a sudden finishing in P10, P9, being lapped by Verstappen, bang average again, and everyone's just going, oh, so Albon's another one of these drivers. Because, he's very, very young. He hasn't got that much experience behind his belt. So, and really this season, he's had no pressure. I know people might say, oh, yeah, he's had to fight for that seat, but realistically, I think you had that in the bag. I think if he performed worse than Gasly, I think yes, he would have gotten that seat back. I think Gasly would have gotten the seat back. But really, how could you perform worse than Gasly? He did terrible. So really, Albon was like, well, just drive the best I can, and I should be okay. But next season, it's going to be even more crucial, because Red Bull are going to be fighting for that world championship, and if Albon's not delivering, then the pressure's going to mount. So whether it's going to backfire on Albon and he's going to crumble under the pressure, or he might thrive under the pressure, he might even beat Verstappen. Who knows? I know I'm jumping the gun there, but you've just got to wait and see. So Lyle, how could you, or what's your expectations for Albon next season? And are you on the same page as me in the terms of that you don't want Albon just to be chucked in the Red Bull dustbin, with like 6 rounds gone in 2020? Do you think Red Bull should give him a chance, or do you think that no, I think that they should get rid of him to put in another driver so that they can fight for that championship if Albon isn't getting the results?
Yeah, I'd like to think they gave Albon a chance. Now, what I said in the video that we made the other day about the breaking news, and again, just what John quickly touched on. So when actually, John, you said Albon needs to be Verstappen. And, it might sound stupid, but I completely agree with you. Again, I said that in the video. I said that, Albon needs to give Max Verstappen a challenge, and obviously he already has. So I can't remember the race off the top of my head, but I know that obviously with Belgium he did. I think Italy might have. Singapore, no, obviously Verstappen was on fire. Second place was amazing from him on the podium. He's given obviously Japan as well. He beat. I know Verstappen retired on two of those races I've just said, but he has beaten Verstappen, and he's given him a challenge. He's given him a fight. He needs to do that. And again, like what you've just said there, John, and again, like I said in the episode, they are fighting for the constructors, and they need to give Verstappen needs a teammate who is also on his level, because Gasly was never on Verstappen's level. I think Albon is made for the team. I really, really do. Even though I know we said that about Gasly, so I'm not going to jump the gun and get an Albon T-shirt. Red Bull, I'm still mad at you about that, man. I mean, 30 quid wasted. Actually, do you know what? It's not really. I do love that T-shirt. I always wear it. From on Formula 1 tent, it's quite comfortable. So no, you're all right, Red Bull. You can. I rescind me complaint. But I think it's sort of. Then also one other thing I said about in that episode was I feel like the trading places is now done. I feel like there is no worry. Fiat and Gasly are signed for next year, but they're signed for a full year at Toro Rosso. Yeah. Alex Albon is signed for a full year at Red Bull, and of course I know that contracts can be broken. But I feel like now everyone's confident. It just feels like confidence that the year's going to start with Verstappen and Albon, and the year's going to finish with Verstappen and Albon. And Verstappen is obviously going to do his own thing. I don't think it's about a teammate who can work well with Verstappen, because as you just said, there has been times where, Verstappen has lapped Gasly, and there's been a big difference in the team where Verstappen's been, P1, P2, P3, really never lower than the podium, and obviously Gasly hasn't been. But they need someone who can work with Verstappen, but also get him the points to win the Constructors. And again, that might not just be for Verstappen, that's for Red Bull in general, because, there is a divide between the team and the drivers, and Red Bull are the 4-time Constructor winners, obviously 2010 to 13. So again, they want to get back there, because remember in those days you had Sebastian Vettel. That was a mix of Verstappen and Sebastian. If you did hear that, can't even say it again. Verstappen, Vettel. Verstappen Vettel. No, the Sebastian Vettel was the winner. Was the one who won the World Championships, and Mark Webber was the kind of the helm who gave him the points and obviously got Red Bull to win the Constructors. That's what they need again. They don't need a second driver who can challenge for the World Championship. They need a driver who can get odd points, give Verstappen a challenge, mainly just get points for the team. So for example, like on the podium, you'll have Verstappen P1 and Albon P3. But you need someone, Red Bull definitely needs someone to win them the World Championship, or at least fight. And I said this in the episode, but I said this in the previous show, but Mercedes might be on fire, they might win. But Red Bull need to set a target for next year, which is to beat Ferrari. That's what they need to do. I mean, obviously P2, let's say, hopefully P1, but even P2 and scratching at the door at Mercedes, that's what they need to do. Obviously they've had a good year this year. Again, even though we say Gasly wasn't great, we did get them some good points, that they could put in the bag. Albon, has been fantastic supporting them. So that's the main thing for next year. I don't feel like there's going to be another trade in places, but obviously that's just my opinion. We never even thought there was going to be one this year. We might have even thought there was going to be one in 2017. We just never knew, Obviously both drivers were never safe. It just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like Albon's safer this year. It feels like he's been brought in to, do a full season with Red Bull and get them the result for the full entire season. So I'm excited for next year. In terms of how we can do, Jordan, as you just said there, no lower than 6th place. Obviously, that's his form at the moment. He is just definitely on an offensive. He's been very reliable. Obviously, Max Verstappen has had 2 retirements, I believe, since Albon came in. Both of those were not the car's fault. So, obviously, Belgium, he collided and then obviously went on into Radion. And then Japan, what did he do? He collided with Charles Leclerc on the first lap. So it wasn't reliability. So both of those have actually been quite, safe in terms of reliability. Albon, as I said in the video, the only problem he's ever had was the little spin that he did during the qualifying session in Russia, but obviously that was all fine. And actually leading on to Russia, which I think was his best race so far, he went from the pit lane to 5th place, I believe, 4th or 5th place, which was absolutely amazing. I think Jordan said driver of the day, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to give him that. But actually, as I looked into that, watched the replays and actually thought, hang on a minute, I'm actually going to, Albon did an actually incredible job here. I think he can have a really good season next year. And Red Bull want him to deliver the points, give Verstappen a challenge, and I think that he is probably the only driver that we've seen in a few years that can give Verstappen a good fight, which is something that Verstappen needs, both for himself going for the championship, because I mean, to battle your teammate is a little bit, I'd say, better than battling someone else like the Mercedes, because in that way Red Bull will think then, oh well, if Verstappen's in second place, it'll keep Verstappen. Sorry, if Albon's in second place, it'll keep Verstappen in first. Obviously, it doesn't always work like that. And then obviously too, it'll get Red Bull, to win the constructors. So I think next year, Jordan, we're looking at someone who can challenge Verstappen. Kind of just, I mean, I know he's not there. I know no driver's there to do this. But, Valtteri Bottas, he's won races, but he's still in second place, and he's still looked at as a second place driver at Mercedes. If Albon can get to that position in his first full season at Red Bull, I know that he might not like that. And as I said before, that massive Daniel Ricciardo smile and the niceness that he's got now might die off. A bit like again what Valtteri Bottas had when he came into Mercedes. He looked a bit like he was more humble than he is now. He's ready to fight. Actually, in the press conference on Thursday, he actually said to someone who said, can you? They said, like Nico Rosberg, who used to kind of play mind games, can you get in Lewis's head? And he went, I'm sick of that question. I'm not Nico, I'm Valtteri, and I'll do what I want. To me, that looked as like, okay, right, I'm getting more fierce now. I'm Valtteri, and next year I'm going to go for Lewis. So Alex might not like that for his first full his first proper season at Red Bull. But to be a second place driver at Red Bull, maybe second place in the championship, but someone who can support and challenge your teammate, I think he'll love that. So I think next year his goal would be to challenge Verstappen and of course get the best results he can. Obviously chases his first podium, possibly a win. And obviously Red Bull's goals are for him to get points to obviously support the team in their goal to win the Constructors' Championship. And I think that he's got that. I think that he looks like a driver who can do that. And I'll say the main thing is, in my eyes, I don't think that there'll be another trading places. And I think that even if Albon goes for a rocky patch, towards like the Austrian, British, Hungarian, German Grand Prix, around that time, I still don't think that he'll be replaced over the summer for two reasons. One, because Albon is being strong this year. He's shown it, and I hope that Red Bull have learned from trading players that it doesn't always work. And secondly, because of those two drivers at Toro Rosso, they've both been in that seat, Jordan. They know, Red Bull know that they're not ready yet. Fiat's not worth it yet, and Gasly is not worth it yet. I think that Red Bull need to be calm on both levels. Think that one will give Albon the best chance because he's the better out of those three drivers, but also that the other two drivers that we can replace him with aren't worth it yet. Because remember, at the end of the day, Red Bull don't have anyone in their junior program. They only have those three drivers to play with, and they've rotated them around already. The only thing left to do is put Albon back to Toro Rosso, but then replace him with who? So I think now Red Bull have got to the final. I mean, it's good where they are, but it is their final kind of thing to do. They can't actually do any more training places, Jordan, unless they want to get rid of Verstappen or look at like Ricciardo or someone. So no, I think that we're all done now. There's going to be no training places. Albon will be there for 2020. And again, like I said in the video, 2021 is where both Toro Rosso drivers and, of course, Albon himself are fighting for. And 2021, of course, is Verstappen isn't signed for. So technically, all four drivers are fighting for a Red Bull seat in 2021. So next year, I think 2020 should be a great season for Red Bull. I can see both drivers doing really well. The main job for Red Bull is to win the Constructors. And I think it will be a good one, as long as he can bring the fight to Verstappen. So Jordan, I mean, do you think that he can challenge Verstappen? What kind of driver do you think he'll be? Do you think he'll be a Valtteri Bottas in 2017, where he'll just kind of be, hanging behind Lewis, support him a bit, but don't get in the way? Or do you think he'll be a ferocious driver like we've seen Valtteri this year, or even maybe a Nico Rosberg, someone who is, as I've just said, from the press conference, getting in his head and challenging? What kind of driver do you think Alex will be? And of course, do you think he'll deliver? And do you think that there will be another trading places scare, let's say, for next year? I'm not going to say definite because we don't know. We didn't think there was going to be one this year. But do you think there'll ever be a scare? That Gasly or Kvyat or someone else might be replacing Albon, obviously, during halfway through next season?
Well, like I said before, I don't think Red Bull should really do this again. I think if Albon does start falling off the pace, just forget about 2020 and just focus on 2021 and maybe evaluate your driver situation then, because the likely chance is that I think it should be really Max's seat under threat more than Albon's. They should be looking at keeping Verstappen more than Albon, because like Verstappen's contract runs out at the end of next season, and he's linked with the likes of, well, the main team being Mercedes. So really, it's Max that they've got to concentrate on. The second driver might have to wait for another couple of years. Well, I say a couple of years for another year yet. So Albon could be there for a long running, and Albon could be in a really good position now because they're trying to keep Verstappen. And I think that those two will work well together. A lot of W's in there. And I think Albon is. I don't want to like disrespect him in this regard, but I think he is a good number 2 driver. Let's say Red Bull get it right next season, and they've got a really, really good car, and Verstappen is winning, a lot of races that like next year. Let's say he's won like 5 out of 10 so far. Like that's pretty good. Red Bull standard anyway for this generation. And Albon is. Let's say he's not. I don't think he will be on par with Verstappen, but I think he should be picking up the points that I don't know. Like, let's say the Mercedes are struggling at a race, or the Ferraris are having reliability problems. Like one of them just crashes out. Albon should be there to pick up the rest of the points that they were not expecting to claim. So like they rock up to a track. I don't know, like Bahrain for example. It's a power circuit, and Red Bull haven't got a good power unit. They're going to be finishing probably P4 and P5 or P5 and P6, and let's say the Mercedes take each other out. So therefore, the two Red Bulls should be finishing in 4th and 5th, or 3rd and 2nd, or whatever happens. And the reason why Red Bull dropped Gasly was because he wasn't doing that. And maybe if Gasly was performing very well and getting the points where like Albon is now, maybe they could be challenging for P2, and we could have a really good fight. So I think that's what Albon's job should be. And if you can take the fight to Verstappen, then go for it. Why not? But I could see a lot of people just kind of saying, okay, Albon, just back off a little bit. Albon, it's James, or Albon, it's whoever's the race engineer there, or the race strategist there in Red Bull.
So very much like a Valtteri then, like as I said before, like
I think he will
a Valtteri for next year.
I think he will. I could see Albon sacrificing some races for Verstappen, only if Verstappen is in the hunt for that World Championship. Because the moment I see Verstappen complaining, "Oh, Albon's too slow. I need to be passed." No, Verstappen, get your foot down and get past him. Race hard. Because and Red Bull will be like, "Oh, but I want 2 cars to finish." Nah, get away with that rubbish. Just trust your drivers. You believe in those drivers. You've got 2 quick drivers. I know one's a bit hot-headed, but let him learn the hard way. If he crashes, all right, let him learn from his mistakes. But again, it'll depend on the situation. But I just don't want to see a typical just let him past Albon, let him past. Well, yeah. What are you fighting for? You're fighting for nothing. But if it is for a World Championship and Albon isn't in the fight, then therefore I fully expect him to move out of the way. But if it was Verstappen, I couldn't see him doing that.
And then, Jordan, do you think then he'll do that? Because obviously Formula 1 drivers aren't in Formula 1 to do that. So like I was just saying there quickly, sorry. So obviously Valtteri Bottas, 2017 or 2018 Bottas, let's say that that is the Valtteri, it's James. That's the sacrifice the Russian Grand Prix. That's wasn't there something in Hungary that year as well? That was the 2018 one, the sacrifice one, what you were just saying. And obviously now the 2019 one is the kind of the opposite of that. I'm not moving over for him. Valtteri, James get lost. So which one do you think Albon will do? Do you think he'll be happy to move over to Verstappen? And obviously, do you think we'll ever see then the other side of that, which is the 2019 Valtteri, where Albon becomes mad and he knows that he can go for the World Championship or be Verstappen and to get what Verstappen's going for?
I think I think Alex would be I will move out the way. He won't be happy, definitely not. It'll be like, guys, really? He might play all cool in front of the media, in front of the cameras and on team radio, but when they go for the post-race debrief, it'll be guys, what the hell? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Albon might play his cards close to his chest and just like releases inner like frustration out away from the car. Like he will sound disappointed. Yeah, guys, could have won the race, but didn't, unfortunately. But if Albon is in a position to win a race and he gets told to move over, that's when we could see a bit of a ferocious Albon trying to break out. But that's the thing, though. It is very hard to predict because we don't know how good Red Bull are going to be next year. But in saying that, if they are, and I think Verstappen will be ahead of Albon because Don't get us wrong, he is the quicker driver. But Albon is consistent. He's good, and like I said, he's fast. And I think, like I said, I think Albon will jump out of the way for Verstappen to allow Verstappen through to be able to fight for the World Championship. Even if Albon has a sniff, or even if he is in the fight, kind of, I think definitely will probably move out the way. But if Albon is very close to Verstappen, I don't think he will. I really, really don't. So, like I said, it'll depend on the situation. But overall, as a whole, if it came down to that, I generally do think Albon will just move out the way, and then he'll just have his say, maybe, for the debrief in the press or whatever. Because you won't be happy because no driver wants to do that. But at the moment, I'm pretty confident Albon will move out the way for Max Verstappen.
So Alex Albon signed for Red Bull. Definitely good to see in the paddock. Red Bull hoping to get back, their ways, which, in my view, they haven't actually been like that in the last few years. The Sebastian and Mark days. And then as soon as kind of Sebastian left, it was kind of just, sitting around. They had Ricciardo and Fiat. They weren't trying to get back what they had, the glory days. But it looks like they're now back on the final step. In my view, trading place isn't going to happen again, Jordan. So I think that Albon's safe for next year. He's going to get good performances. And overall, I'm pretty happy that he's there. I think that he's shown that he's deserved it. He hasn't been at Toro Rosso for very long. The only worry is with that is that, next year he could possibly show his inexperience because he's only done, 11 rounds, Australia to Hungary. That's the only stint he's ever had in a Formula 1 car. He hasn't been a test driver beforehand. He hasn't been with another team. That's all he has. And then he's gone to Red Bull, but results definitely showed. And overall, I'm very happy that he's here. I think he's going to be a great driver, as we said before. He is obviously racing under the flag of Thailand, but he is British. Obviously, grew up in London. Good driver to have it behind what you can also say is a British team. Well, that's what I'm telling myself because I'm a Red Bull fan. So yes, I'm very happy to see him. I'm going to hold off getting his t-shirt. I'm going to say until after summer break, Jordan, because that'll mark a year. And also, the summer break is literally the only time they can actually get rid of him, unless they're going to do something stupid and get rid of him. Before the Singapore Grand Prix, when we're like in the last third of the season or something stupid like that. So I'm really happy. Jordan, his final thoughts on Albon. Are you happy that he's here? Out of the other, two drivers that they could have chosen, Gasly and Fiat, of course I was a Gasly fan, but from the last 7 races, it's definitely, the proof is in the pudding that, Albon definitely deserves to be there, and it should be a good season, shouldn't it? And also, just quickly, Toro Rosso for next year, those 2 drivers, as I've said, before, they're in it to fight. They need a year at Toro Rosso, which will now be Gasly's 3rd season at Toro Rosso. They need that year to kind of work on themselves, and then they should be ready for that fight for the seat in 2021. So, Jordan, do you think that Albon is? Do you think that he should have gone to that seat? Are you happy that he's there, and do you think it should have been any other driver?
Well, no. First of all, I'm definitely happy that Albon is there now because, like I said earlier, I did have my doubts because of how young he was and how inexperienced he was. I thought Red Bull took a big risk, and I was just like, well, it should have been Kvyat, if anyone, but thinking about it back then, it was like, well, Red Bull had nothing to lose, so they couldn't stoop any lower than third because McLaren was never going to catch them. So they had a big gap. So 3rd place was the worst that could happen, which is where they were currently are. So it did make sense, and of course, Albon hadn't really had a chance before, so give him a pop and see how it goes. But next season, like I said, the pressure is on. And that's when we'll see the true Albon. Because at the moment we're just seeing a relax. I don't want to say relax. I don't want to give you the wrong impression to say that Albon's just taking the mick. He's having a Sunday drive. The performances he's putting in are definitely shown because it's shown in his ability. I just think that there's not that much pressure, and there'll be even less so now because he's there for next season. So let's just see how it goes in Brazil and Abu Dhabi. And of course, let's see how the car is, because the car could be awful next year. We don't know. But if it is good and it is capable of winning races, then the pressure it will be on Albon definitely as much as Verstappen. And let's see how it goes, and we'll definitely see the true Albon. And yes, I am pleased to see him at Red Bull. Of course, Gasly, he's been doing great since going back to Toro Rosso. So, Kvyat has been doing well this season. Will they be in a Red Bull in the future? I doubt it. I think that ship is now officially sailed. Whoever will come back in that Red Bull for next year, in 2021, or even into the future, is anybody's guess. But we did run a little poll as well just before we move on to the next thing, if you want to call it that. So we said, saw Red Bull announce Alex Albon as their 2020 driver this week. Nico Hulkenberg was also linked with that seat. But have Red Bull made the right call? 74% of you guys said yes, and 26% of you said no. So a lot of people are favouring that Albon definitely deserves to be there, that you guys are happy that he is there. And of course, against the other guy who was linked with that seat, Nico Hulkenberg, which rolls on to our next kind of topic thing, where we're going to be talking about Hulkenberg, not so much about our poo-hoo, Hulkenberg's not going to be here next season, but what if he was signed for next season with that Red Bull? Like, there was a lot of talk in the paddock that Hulkenberg was going to be signing with Red Bull, he was going to be leaving Renault, and then that the news became stronger, a little bit stronger, when Albon was announced that he was going to be replacing Gasly in Red Bull, and then even more stronger because it was announced that he was going to be leaving Renault next season. He was linked with Haas. That didn't go down. Well. Williams was out the picture, and Red Bull was more or less a good opportunity for Hulkenberg to go to. And of course, Red Bull going outside of their program, untraditionally, if you want to call it that, and Hulkenberg would have had a really good opportunity to show what he can do in a top car, because he's never had that in his career. So, if Hulkenberg had signed for Red Bull, how would they do? Let's say, how would they do? And next season, and would they be better off with Hulkenberg or with Albon? So, Lyle, how would picture this, right? Okay, so Red Bull have announced that they've signed Hulkenberg in 2020 for next season. How well do you think he would have done if he was in that seat for next season, going up against the likes of Verstappen? Do you think that he could have been challenging for race wins, winning races? And do you think that he would have been a guy that Red Bull would have chosen, let's say, if Albon didn't get the seat, or if Albon buggered off to somewhere else? Do you think Hulkenberg would have been a good choice for Red Bull?
It's hard to say. I mean, Nico. I mean,
Yeah.
well, firstly, I mean, with Red Bull, I mean, Nico Hulkenberg. I would have never really said that Nico would have gone to Red Bull. I mean, his options, by the way, just his obviously we've already said it, but his options are just completely gone now. Williams was. They were all just shrinking. Obviously, Ferrari have confirmed, Mercedes have confirmed, Red Bull have now confirmed, Toro Rosso confirmed. The only chance he actually has now is at Williams. Nick Latifi has signed pen to paper, but they haven't actually made the official announcement. So he has between now and what is rumoured to be the end of Abu Dhabi, when they're actually going to officially announce their 2020 driver lineup, which is George Russell and Canadian driver Nicholas Latifi. He has between then and then to show Williams that he is deserved to be on that team. But the only way I think he can do that is to win the Brazilian Grand Prix, of which we do joke about, Jordan. But remember 2012, we were just talking about it. I mean, oh my God, if that was his closest win ever. And guys, if you haven't watched that race, I mean, 2012 Brazil was one of my favourite races in Formula One ever. One of my favourite seasons. Obviously, one of Jordan's as well. He definitely amazing. World Championship battle, but Nico Hulkenberg could have won the race. The problem is Nico's never really been in a proper, a car that he could fight for the championship. Really even wins. That's the thing with Nico. He's been in Formula One. He's bounced around teams, Force India and Sauber, and his main part of being at Force India. He's never had a car that could challenge for wins and stuff. I mean, apart from what I was just saying there about 2012 Brazil, where he had the chance to win the race and actually was on track 2 before he collided with Lewis Hamilton, which was, I mean, that was really unfortunate because both Lewis and Nico were both fighting for the win of that race, and it both would have been very special. Obviously, Lewis's last race with McLaren, and that was a good year for him. I think 2014 with Force India was also good, but never really a strong car. But though, on the other hand, Jordan, as we quickly mentioned, Nico Hulkenberg in Formula One is, that's one page. But remember, in 2015, he did go to Le Mans. He did race with what team was it? Porsche, and win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Which, remember, he just came in and won straight away. Something that Fernando Alonso tried to emulate as well. That was amazing. So that's really the two sides to Nico Hulkenberg that we've seen. So, of course, that goes in the fight of, is he worth it? But as I say, we've never seen him in Formula One in a car like a Red Bull. In my opinion, I'm just glad that I'm not really going to comment on Nico because I don't really know too much about how he would do. It would just be, of course, my thoughts because he's never been in a car like Red Bull. So I'm just glad that they went with Albon. A younger driver who has driven for their sister team. I know Toro Rosso were, of course, trying to distance himself from being a Red Bull sister team, but he's driven for them. He's been in the Red Bull Junior program. Of course, as you just said there, Jordan, Red Bull have never gone outside their junior program. They've obviously Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Fiat, and of course now Albon. So I'm glad that they've gone with Albon. He just seems like a better driver, more of a Red Bull driver. Nico would have been good, but of course he is an older driver. We've never seen what he can do in Formula One. Nico's potential has just never come out. To be honest, John, I never thought that he actually would get the Red Bull, especially when we're looking over drivers, because at the start of the break or whatever, midway, the first part of the season, we were saying, right, Gasly's staying, but then if he doesn't, he's going to go to Hulkenberg. And then now it's going to be, well, do you know what? Instead of doing this training place, we'll go to Hulkenberg. I never actually thought he would get there. As good as a driver he is, he's just not Red Bull quality, unfortunately. So Jordan, of course, you believe that he would have gone to Red Bull, or there was a chance. How do you think he would have done? Do you think that basically everything that we were saying in the first part of the episode about Albon, being great and supporting Verstappen, and obviously getting Red Bull, their fifth World Constructor Championship. Do you think that Hulkenberg would do that for the team, or do you think he would go in a completely opposite direction? Because as I've just said there, the main thing is we've never ever seen Nico Hulkenberg in a challenging environment, both teammate wise. Obviously no offense to everyone else he's had. Probably Checo got close to challenging him in 2014, 2015, but he's never been in that situation. And obviously, how do you think he would do in that Red Bull? Probably the only car in his career that he's had a chance of challenging for wins and things. How do you think he would do?
Well, like I said, it is very tricky to say, because, like I said, we've never seen Hulkenberg in a top car. I just think that I don't think he hasn't unlocked his potential. I just think he hasn't. I think he's just been one of those drivers where he's been really, really unlucky in his Formula One career, and we'll never get to see what Hulkenberg can actually do. And that potential will be locked away and never be seen, well, in Formula 1 anyway, and never be seen again. He might go and make a brilliant success in a different series, which is definitely going to happen, because he's not going to Williams. I know, like you said before about, if he wins the Grand Prix, he could win the next 2 Grand Prix and bloody obliterate the field. He's not going to Williams. And I think
the only chance, the only chance was, so apparently Williams have signed Nicholas Latifi, but they haven't made it official yet.
There will be different.
They can only mention
the
after Abu
sponsorship.
Dhabi.
I think will be might be delaying that, trying to get the financials through and everything to make sure everything's perfectly fine. That right? Okay, all the transactions are now passed and stuff or whatever.
Yeah. But as of now, Nico Hulkenberg, Jordan's great. As of now, Nico Hulkenberg is actually unemployed. A driver who has been with us since we've grown into Formula One. He's unemployed.
I know he is, and that is a really strange thing, isn't it? But I think the thing is though, right, is that I want to say quickly on Hulkenberg is that I know people are very angry that he's not going to be in Formula One. That people were like, "Oh, Romain Grosjean, why is he still in Haas and stuff?" The thing is though, in Formula One, it's not about ability. It's not about how quick you can drive a car. So in some cases it can be, but in most cases, especially in the midfield, it's how much money can you generate to our team. And a lot of people were like, well, if it came down to genuine ability between Hulkenberg and Grosjean for that Haas seat, let's say, Hulkenberg would get it. Definitely. He's a better driver. However, Grosjean brings more money. So put 2 and 2 together. I know Haas aren't desperate for money, but the more money they have coming into the team, the better it'll be for the future and that or whatever, to be able to keep that team going in Formula One. So if you're sat down with Grosjean and Hulkenberg, you're like, well, Grosjean is driver wise, we know what he's like. He's very accident prone and stuff. No disrespect to Grosjean fans. Dan, if you're watching this, I apologise. But and obviously Hulkenberg's a better driver, but Grosjean's bringing in more money. He's got better finances than Hulkenberg. You're going to choose Grosjean. And if it came down to that, I don't blame Haas. I really, really don't. And also, there probably is drivers in the ranks. Well, let's say, there are drivers in Formula One. If money didn't talk, I reckon about a handful of drivers. I'm not going to say which drivers, because I don't want to cough up a big stir, but there will be a handful of drivers who won't be in Formula One now, or would have never even made it to Formula One if money didn't talk. And there will be drivers who will be much better than Hulkenberg in the lower ranks, who will never make the Formula One, or who have never even made it to the peak, or even in motorsport. There's probably people who, I don't know, maybe got a British Formula 4 or European F4, F3, and just quit because they couldn't afford another season. They could have been brilliant. They're probably even better than Hulkenberg. Like I said, there will be drivers out there who are better than Hulkenberg, who will never even make it in Formula One for whatever reason. And it is a shame, but you just got to get on with it and get over it. Hulkenberg, all right, we grew up with Hulkenberg, so we have that emotional attachment to him because we've seen him ever since we first joined the sport. But for people who've been here long before Hulkenberg, will be like, yeah, all right, Hulkenberg, yeah, he was all right, bang average, but you know that's just the harsh world of Formula One. We've got to move on because he was never going to be here forever. And all right, he'll be forever remembered as, well, for a long time anyway, to having most Grand Prix appearances without scoring a podium or without appearing on the podium. It is a shame, but that's how it goes. That's a harsh world of motorsport. But in terms of being a Red Bull, I think if Albon had improved his results, they might have, and let's say they were considering putting him back in Toro Rosso or even kicking him out altogether, I believe they would have chosen probably Kvyat to come back over Hulkenberg. I think they would have discussed terms, but, and a big but, if Albon didn't sign with Toro Rosso and he did go to Formula E, I think Hulkenberg would be in there somewhere. Whether that's Toro Rosso or Red Bull. Toro Rosso is I don't know about Toro Rosso because he's getting on a bit. That's Red Bull's. That's Red Bull's sister team. That's for like the Red Bull's young drivers. So really, he could have been in Red Bull if Albon wasn't on the scene and if Gasly was underperforming. Send Gasly back to Toro Rosso, and put Hulkenberg in that seat. I think then it would make a little bit more sense. But then again, if Albon wasn't on the scene, maybe someone else could have been. So again, we just don't know. I'm saying that in hindsight as well. So, but yeah, like I said, if Albon didn't deliver results for the next half of the season and Red Bull decided to drop him, either Gasly or Kvyat would have came back into that seat. A slight chance, but I think if they had the choice of signing Hulkenberg or bringing one of them back, I think they would have brought one of those old drivers back. But like I said, shame Hulkenberg isn't going to be here next season. But like I said, he's definitely not going to Williams. Definitely not. He's asking prices too much. Like I said, he doesn't bring enough money with him. Yeah. If he brought loads and loads of money with him, he would be in Haas. Might have been in Williams. I don't know, depending on how development goes. But shame.
The thing with Haas though is that, you know, remember, like they're the rivals of Renault. You know, it's like going from Mercedes to Ferrari. You know, would you go from Renault to Haas? Yeah, I mean, there was so much rumours about Nico Hulkenberg going places. I think every team, you know, that apart from like Williams and Ferrari were actually linked. But there's one thing that Nico could do now, Jordan, which, you know, again, we discussed it before the show, which is reserve driver. He did that in 2011 with, I think it was Suttil and DeResta were in Force India, and then he was the third place driver. Which, you know, again, it got a lot of people,
as well,
strange.
But quickly, what I mentioned before about money talks, Hulkenberg was at Williams in 2010. Why did he lose his seat in 2011? Because of Maldonado.
I know. Because I was going to say, he was a good. I mean, he was a good driver. You know, that was a good season. Obviously, his main thing from that was the pole position that he had at the Brazilian Grand Prix. But yeah, as John said, you know, I don't know why he lost it, but it is money completely. So again, I was saying, you know, the reserve driver, that's his only option. I know, Jordan, we're not really talking about, you know, Nico Hulkenberg in this episode, but, you know, do you see him being? I mean, if he wants to be in Formula One, that's his only real option, isn't it? Now, to be a Red Bull, to be a reserve driver. I mean, you never know. I mean, okay, fine. I tell you what, let's keep the episode Red Bull like we have been before. So Red Bull say to Nico Hulkenberg, right, you can't drive our car. You can't be our first and second place driver because we've already got them sorted. You can be our third place driver. So there's a bit like Esteban Gutierrez. You know, he kicked out Haas in 2016, goes to Ferrari as a test driver, which obviously is, you know, helped him a lot in his career. So Nico Hulkenberg, 2020 Red Bull Junior reserve driver Is that going to happen, John? Or and obviously, if not, is he going to be a reserve driver anywhere else?
He's better off being a reserve driver at a team like Haas, or even dropping down to reserve at Renault or Alpha. Well, maybe not Alpha, but like even Williams in a case to help them develop the car. But if he goes to Red Bull as a reserve driver, that doesn't make any sense to me. It will not make any sense because Red Bull have already got reserve drivers in Toro Rosso or Alpha Tauri, as they'll be called next season. A name to get used to as well.
Oh,
so
that is a cross between Alfa Romeo
Toro
and
Rosso.
Toro Rosso. Alpha Tauri Rosso.
Can we just call them Toro Rosso? Just make life easier for us next season.
Well, you do know, John. Like for the first part of this season, everyone will say Toro Rosso or Alpha Tauri, or whatever you want to call it. Force India Racing Point, whatever you want to call
someone
them.
could say, Alpha Tauri, I meant Alfa Romeo, and then you'd be like, what? It's going to be so confusing next season. But like I said, if Hulkenberg does go, that's well out. I don't think that will ever happen. But if he does, it won't make any sense to me because Red Bull don't need a driver like him in the reserves in the ranks because Red Bull are a fully developed team. And they don't really. I don't think they need him, if I'm honest. But definitely the ship has in terms of racing Formula One, the ship has sailed. Reserve driver role, slight chance. I can definitely guarantee Hulkenberg will be in another series. What that series is, I really don't know because there are limited options now. Formula E, no. IndyCar, he didn't want to go there. WEC, there is no big teams left, I suppose. But I don't know. Like I said, he will be in another series. I don't know what.
The F1 virtual
get him on the
series,
show.
that's what he'll be in.
Get him on the show. We'll get in contact with us, Nico.
We said that about... here's a question, John, just quickly. Do you remember the last driver... I'll give you a clue. It was in 20... Actually, no, that's not a clue. Okay, fine. It was in 2016, I've already said. Do you remember the last driver we said, come and join the F1 virtual cast?
Was it Button?
It was Jensen.
I remember
right after when he was retired. Yeah, Jensen, come on. Nico, come on.
Get all the oldies on.
We do like our tall guys.
That would be pretty cool to have Nico on. But like I said, don't get us wrong. I think Hulkenberg, he's a nice guy. I think he's a good racing driver. He's not the worst racing driver in the world. Like we don't criticize him every week. He's very fluent and consistent. And he is gentle with the car. Like he doesn't crash every week.
Yeah.
But like I said before, if it came to driving ability between Grosjean and Hulkenberg will have that seat no problem. It's just money talks in Formula One. Hulkenberg doesn't bring that much money with him. Bye bye. Sorry.
And I mean, we've said as well, 175 starts, but actually 177 starts after Abu Dhabi. So that's that's not.
He's had a good
innings.
innings.
There's some drivers out there.
He's had a good innings
who have had
in Formula One.
There's some drivers out there who have had 5 starts, 4 starts, 3 starts, 2 starts, 1 start, and there's some people like Jordan and me who haven't even had 1 start. Jordan, we're on 0 starts.
But like I said earlier, there will be racing drivers who will never get to Formula One or never get to Formula 2 who are much better than Hulkenberg. There will be loads and loads of drivers who have slipped through the cracks, who could have been the next best thing, trust me.
Yeah.
But, hey, harsh world of Formula 1, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it's me. It's me.
It is.
Thing. Okay, so I'll start again. Right. Yes, it is very harsh, John. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. So it looks like we're not going to see Nico Hulkenberg on the grid, or if we are, it's going to be as a pundit, or it's going to be as just a fan. A VIP paddock fan, and Martin Brundle will be emailing him. He'll be interviewing him, just as a Nico Hulkenberg. There he is, and it'll say ex Force India, ex Renault driver. Actually, do you know what his credentials will say? It'll say 177 starts, no podium. As of now, obviously he could win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but as of now it'll be 175 starts, no podiums, no pole positions, no anything, and you got one fastest lap.
One pole position. Remember that one in Brazil. That's all it will say. It'll say Nico Hulkenberg, 177 starts, 1 pole position. That's all it will say underneath them, sadly.
That was right, yeah. That's it, yeah. And he apparently got 1 fastest lap in 2012, which we think is Brazil. But obviously, if you do know that, leave it down in the comment section below, because it did say that. It did say 1 fastest lap. It did say 2012, but it didn't say where it was. But it's probably Brazil, because obviously that was one of his best races, because he did retire, but he had a chance of winning the race. I loved that race. probably because it was the only decent race I've ever seen Nico Hulkenberg do. Anyway, yes, so that is Nico Hulkenberg. Where will he go? Obviously Red Bull, and everyone now is completely signed, more signed than Carlos Sainz. So let us know where you think Nico Hulkenberg will go. Obviously, leave it in the comment section below. Everything we've said in the episode. Do you agree? Do you think Albon is a good driver? Do you think he's not? What do you think? Also, as well, obviously, thank you for watching the episode. If you like the episode, please give us a like. If you don't like the episode, instead of giving us a dislike, guys, how about leaving us a comment leaving us a comment about why? What do you not like about the episode? We can take it, most things, as long as it doesn't offend us. Actually, no, we can't. But that'll help us along. It'll help us maybe improve the show, or don't say things. For example, like we've had comments before, about how we speak, how we talk, things like that. Don't get too nasty. We really can't take it. And don't say things like we don't like Jordan, because I can't replace him. Actually, no, I might do. I'll let you know. I'll let you know next episode if I have replaced him or not. But yes, just let us know. We hope you do enjoy the episode, of course. If you're new around here, please give us a subscribe and keep on track with all the new episodes that we have coming up. Tomorrow we have the Brazilian Grand Prix review, which will be coming to you by me, which actually is the last time I'll be doing a race review of 2019, which, I mean, wow.
Wow, yeah.
Oh my God, that's absolutely insane, that. I remember my first one in Bahrain, and then the last one now for me. Obviously, we have one round left after that, which is Abu Dhabi, which will be done by Jordan. But it's my last race review. It's absolutely crazy. Yes, stay on track with us, obviously, through the rest of 2019 and beyond. We've been there from the bitch. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, guys, we'll see you
later, guys.